Thanks for watching this video. Remember to give us a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel. So in this video, we are going to talk about the Pearson GCSE. So the paper taken from is 2019 January. Today the topic, is about the economic growth. Okay, the economic growth and policy. So this is the topic for today. So I would like you to take a look at the setting of this video. So I've put the question here. We were going to talk about question 3 in 2019 January paper, and I've also put in the marking guidelines and the examination report. Okay, so let's do this. We have in the question we have to talk about the stages during 2010 here, and also during 2016. Okay, about the economic cycle. So before we do that, I would like to highlight the 4 economic cycle with you. Okay, so the first one is about boom, and then recession, and then deflation, and the last one would be recovery. Okay, now so let's take a look at 2010. So as you can see, in 2010 it reached the peak. Okay, the peak. So I would say it's a boom. Okay, because there's a rapid economic growth from -2%, from -2% here, to +8%. Yep, during 2010. So that's the answer. So how about 2016? So for 2016 is a recession. As you can see, there's 2 quarters of negative growth. Okay, so as you can see, starting from these, okay, so there's negative growth. So I would say a lot of students, they can identify the stage, but they fail to give reason. So when you give reason, you have to talk about the changes in the GDPs. Okay, so let's mark this down. You have to focus on the changes in the GDP. So that's on the graph, right? So this one is on the graph here, the GDP annual growth rate. So let's move on to 3A2. So a lot of students, they overweigh advantages with development. So that's very easy, right? It's about 2 advantages of economic growth. It's called increasing income. So that means the quality of life. Okay, the individual quality of life can be improved, and also more tax revenue, right? So the government can have more money to spend on health and care to help with the future growth. So this future growth, it talks about the potential GDP. Let's move on to part 3. Okay, in part A. So it talks about the disadvantages of economic growth is pollution and environmental damage. So can taxation be the best way to protect the environment? So first of all, we have to talk about the rationale. Okay, the rationale why taxation can be the good one. Okay, so let's take a look. So this one we can talk about the supply curve. Okay, the supply curve of using the motor vehicle, they would move like this. Okay, go upward and leftward. Okay, so this helps to protect the industry. So that's what here talks about. Okay, increase the cost of production activities. The supply curve shift leftward and upward, so there will be a fall in pollution. Okay, so that's one more point I would like you to add. It's about tax revenue. Okay, so these tax revenue would also serve as the protection. So that means the resources for environmental conservation increase. Next, so let's move on to the arguments that are not the best way. So the first one, of course, is about the regressive nature. Okay, so it hit wealth of the people the hardest. Okay, so the rich people will just continue. Okay, and also we have to consider the price elasticity. Okay, so I would like you to take a look. Okay, the price elasticity would equal to the PED. Okay, the PED would equal to the change, the percentage change in quantity over the percentage change in price. Yep. So when it is price inelastic, then okay, the effective is not good. Okay. So right now, so in the evaluation part, I would say you should talk about other means, such as okay, with like regulation and education. So in the exam report, so a lot of counter arguments were often on the merits of other policies would be more effective. Okay. So this is very good. You can talk about merits of other policies. So these merits, they are such as education and regulations. Also, you can talk about why taxation cannot be effective. Okay, say for example, it might be price elastic. Okay, so that's why they are not effective at all. Very easy. So let's move on to this one. We'll start with B1. Okay, so this one at first it talks about the adjustment of the interest rate. So of course, A it would be the answer. That's very easy. So I would like to also talk about B. This supply side policy is about training and development. For fiscal policy, it's about the change in taxation and change in government expenditure. So let's move on to B2. So for B2, we have to talk about two possible causes of inflation. That's very, very easy. So it would be demand pull and cost pull reason. Okay, so these two reasons, please again memorize them. So for demand pull services is called so there is exceed, okay, exceed the supply. The demand exceed the supply, so the will force pricing up. Okay, the cost of output, cost put is talks about the input. Okay, so the raise in the input cost raise the production cost. Okay, so to maintain the profit level, the firms have to increase the price. So this is a very, very straightforward question, and you can see a large number of students they can identify and explain the cause of inflation. Okay, but there are some confusions. Okay, so make sure you have a very clear, I would say, clear development. Okay, clear elaboration for your answer. Let's move on to okay, this one, part 3. So when there is a reduction in interest rate, okay, consumer will they always be benefit. Okay, first of all, we have to talk about the first one, right? The borrowing becomes cheaper, of course. Okay, then they can buy luxury goods. Okay, and repay less mortgage. Of course. So we have to do the evaluation. Okay, if you want to get full mark. Okay. So let's mark this down. Okay, for this part, okay, this is maximum 4. Okay, so what we need to do, you cannot just consider the consumer as borrower. So there's one more role that we have to consider, is that they are the savers. Okay, so if they are savers, they will receive less interest. Okay, so a lot of candidates, the mistake is that they discuss on the effect of the firms and the whole economy. Okay, then you cannot answer the question well. So be careful in this question. Okay, we have to do it in the perspective of borrowers and savers. let's move on to the last part of this question. Okay, in the last part, it talks about the supply side policy. Would it be the best way to reduce the unemployment in an economy? So first of all, we have to talk about we have to give some examples of supply side policy. So as you can see in the marking guidelines, okay, so you can see there are some examples like training and skills. Okay, so this is one of the examples, okay, of supply side policy. So next, okay, we can talk about how these provision of training and skills help the unemployed workers, so they can help them to gain the skills they need. Next, then the incentive, these can attract the employers to set up business in areas of high employment. So I would say this part, okay, a lot of candidates missed this point. Okay, so I would like you to mark it down, this one. Okay, so there's a lot of candidates missed this point. So okay, I would like to remind you have to put down this point when you talk about supply side policy. So next, after we give about the argument supporting, then we have to move on to the arguments not supporting. So there are few points that you can talk about. Say for example, it cannot be dealt with seasonal or cyclical employment. So these cyclical and seasonal employment, these are about, I would say, for the seasonal, it's a kind of natural unemployment. But for cyclical, for cyclical unemployment, it's about the, I would say, because the economy is not good, okay, the deficit of AD. So this is not unnatural, okay, this is not natural unemployment. So be careful, okay, for both natural and non-unnatural unemployment, I would say supply side policy cannot help with them, okay. So so you can see that's why in the answer it talks about, hey, there's no point to train those workers when there are jobs are not available, okay, such as seasonal or cyclical unemployment, okay. So at this time, okay, the jobs, okay, they are not available. So one more point I would like to talk about is very expensive to implement, okay. Say for example, the admin cost, okay, of the government. So so next, let's take a look the examination report. So a lot of candidates, okay, they do not have a clear awareness had to present the supply side policy, okay, and also they cannot give reasoned judgment and conclusion. So when you talk about the reasoned judgment and conclusion, so we have to talk about depends on what, okay, depends on what, which has caused unemployment. So there are a few causes of unemployment. Number one is about seasonal. Number two is about cyclical. We'll try to give you two more, okay. So number three, it will be about fractional. Number four, it will be about structural. So I would say supply side policy works best, okay, when there is structural, okay. So if there is a lot of unemployment caused by structural unemployment, then okay, you should apply the supply side policy, okay. So we'll put it here, okay, for the for structural, okay. So this would be our answer. Okay. So on the other hand, okay, if the unemployment reason is about seasonal or cynical, then okay, then you shouldn't okay implement such kind of policy. So that's all for this video. Remember to give up a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.